Well, good morning, my friends. Welcome to Faith United Church of Christ on this beautiful Sunday morning. I am wondering, to start our service here, if you will join me with a call to worship. The words are on the screen. You are above us, O God. You are within. You are in all things, yet contained by no thing. Teach us to seek you in all that has life, that we may see you as the light of life. Teach us to search for you in our own depths, that we may find you in every living soul. I wonder now if you'll join me, my friends, in a beautiful song to open up our Sunday morning, a very special Sunday morning, I'll say more about that in a bit, here at Faith United Church of Christ on a special day. We're going to sing together, "The Spirit Blowing Through Creation." The words will be on the screen.
Spirit blowing through creation, Spirit burning in the skies, let the hope of your salvation fill our eyes. God of splendor, God of glory, you who light the stars above, all the heavens tell the story of your love. Spirit renewing the earth, renewing the hearts of all people. Burn in the weary souls, blow through the silent lips. Come now, awake us, Spirit of God. As you move upon the waters, as you ride upon the wind, move us all, your sons and daughters, deep within. As you shape the hills and mountains, form the land and fill the deep, let your hand renew and waken all who sleep. Spirit renewing the earth, renewing the hearts of all people. Burn in the weary souls, blow through the silent lips. Come now, awake us, Spirit of God. Love the sense of rivers dancing, love that waters all that lives, love that heals and holds and rouses and forgives. You are food for all creatures, you are hunger in the soul, in the hands of broken-hearted are made whole. Spirit renewing the earth, renewing the hearts of all people. Burn in the weary souls, blow through the silent lips. Come now, awake us, Spirit of God. All the creatures you have fashioned, all that live and breathe in you, find their hope in your compassion strong and true. You, O Spirit of salvation, you alone beneath above, come renew your whole creation in your love. Spirit renewing the earth, renewing the hearts of all people.
Well, good morning again, my friends. Welcome to everyone out there in the cyber world, out there in our virtual community, Faith UCC's virtual world. What a joy it is to be with you here on this special Sunday, a very special Sunday morning. Again, I'll say more about that in a bit, but I want to just welcome anybody that's visiting with us today. First-time visitors, return visitors, we are delighted to have you with us today. And if you can remember to please go ahead and request our newsletter so we can keep you apprised. If you are visiting with us and you'd like to learn more about what's going on here, request that newsletter so we can keep you apprised of the many happenings that we have going here. And believe it or not, even in these COVID times, though we're not here on Sunday mornings together, there's a lot of stuff happening here during the week and online, virtually. So anybody can partake from around wherever you are this day. So wherever you find yourself. So do request that newsletter, find out what's going on here. Visit our website, www.faithucc.org, and check back often because we're going to unveil a new and revamped website that hopefully will be very lively and something you can come to on a weekly basis to see what's going on there. So do watch for that in the future. But welcome, my friends, to all of you on this special day. And I keep saying special day because it was. I'm going to say more about this in my sermon and our sermon in a bit. It was 61 years ago, this very moment. It's 10:39 right now, according to my screen here. It was at that time, 61 years ago, this very moment on October 11th, that Faith United Church of Christ gathered to celebrate its very first worship service, having been a brand new church created under the umbrella of the newly formed United Church of Christ. And how exciting is that? So we celebrate 61 years today. I just find it really kind of cool to think back that 61 years ago, people did the very first gathering for this. And now here we are, 61 years later, online. Again, I'll say more about that in a bit, but I think that's pretty cool. So happy anniversary, happy birthday, whatever we want to call it, to Faith UCC today. How exciting. And please do stick around after the service as well. Have a little Zoom time. That is the correct Zoom code, the meeting ID. I deleted everything else, so you won't be finding any old codes. That is the one. So join us afterwards and share a favorite memory of Faith UCC. Or if you're new or don't know much about this place, join in as well and learn some more. It'll just be a sermon talk back coffee time. So do join us. So today we're going to focus. Today's just kind of a light day of celebration, and God knows there's so much heaviness in this world right now. We just need kind of a light day to celebrate and celebrate a good story, which we are. So we'll focus on us today. I want to just highlight the coming weeks. Next week we're gonna delve into a little more heaviness, and this notion of forgiveness has been coming up a lot lately. This notion of who does one pray for? Who are we to forgive? How do we forgive? Why are we so divided right now? So I'm gonna tackle that one next week in a sermon and talk a little about forgiveness. So a little bit heavier sermon next week, but also focusing on a good story in there. The 25th, we're going to do a Bread for the World kind of service. We're going to write letters. Bread for the World, the offering of letters is something we do every single year. And I know this year, I've heard people say, don't bother, there's so much gridlock going on. But Bread for the World is saying, please continue to write those letters on behalf of hungry kids everywhere in the United States, because these politicians need to hear from us that this is an issue that makes us hungry. So I'll put some information in the newsletter and make another announcement next week on that. And the service will have another focus as well. November 1st is a really important service. One, it's 3 days before the election, 2 days before the election, but it's also All Saints, All Souls. So we are going to kind of put together hopefully a special video with your loved ones. So if you can send those my way to my email address, it's in the newsletter. You can send it to office@faithucc.org, like a picture of a loved one that we can get in a special video to put to some special music. It's a great way just to celebrate and remember those that have journeyed into the other realm, the other side. As my sister put it when she died, she said, "I'll see you on the other side." So those that have journeyed to the other side, whatever that looks like and whatever that is, we want to celebrate them in the fullest. So I've gotten a couple of pictures already, photos, and that's great. If you can't send one electronically, contact me and you can stop by the church with it and I'll take a picture. We'll go old-fashioned and I'll snap a photo with my phone and get a good quality one, we can get that into, turn it into a JPEG and put it in that way. So good stuff coming out. It's going to be a meaningful service. So please send in your photos, and let's fill a good long song with just wonderful memories of those that we have loved and lost in our lives. The rest of November, I'm going to put together a theme here on courage and perseverance, because there's just so much going on. I think we're so down right now as a nation and as people. Mental health is at an all-time low, so I want to go through some great biblical stories of courage and perseverance and pull out some themes for us for the rest of November. And then we're going to journey into Advent. And we're just going to go lectionary and follow the story of Jesus right to Christmas, because God knows I need Christmas this year. I really do. I didn't want to let go of Christmas last year. It's kind of funny. I was listening to John Rutter's Christmas album, like well into, I think it was, March, before all this COVID stuff hit. And there's a reason I didn't want to let it go, and now I know why I didn't want to let it go. It was like a foreshadowing of what's to come. So we're going to celebrate Christmas wonderfully this year and make it a powerful Advent and Christmas season, because we really need that message this year. So join us for all of these great services coming up. Tell your friends, share our story wide and far, and join us as often as you can on Sunday mornings and other times as well. Quick announcement, we are going to be starting the Thursday Spiritual Group is studying the book Cast, The Origin of Our Discontents, a fascinating book, and we're going to read through it section by section. I think it's broken into about 7 starting this week. 10:30 to noon. All are welcome at the Spiritual Study Group. It's on Zoom. You just need to contact me and let me get your email address in there so I can send you that Zoom link. And if you're interested, if that time doesn't work for you, and you maybe like an evening time, we can work that out as well. So contact me either way to get in on Thursday, or if you're interested in trying to put together another group, because this is a pretty good book. And it'd be great to have many, many people reading it. Lots of words today, but it's an exciting day. I want to lift up some concerns, though. Please hold Scott, son-in-law of Ginny Van Scoyoc, in your hearts and prayers. Scott was tested for COVID-19. Apparently, a coworker was tested positive for COVID-19, so Scott is being tested as well. So hold Scott, his wife Sue, and Ginny in your hearts and prayers in this time. Also hold John Spicer in your hearts. He's recovering from surgery a few weeks ago. We lifted him up, and now he's going to go see an oncologist to kind of figure out the what's next, and that's going to be on Tuesday. So please hold John and Jan in your hearts and prayers. I know they're on with us right now, so we're thinking about you, John, on Tuesday, and you and Jan always. Bev Grieve is having a procedure on the 22nd to have a few spots removed or examined from her thyroid. So please hold Bev in your hearts and prayers in the coming weeks. And also some news on Don Jablonski's dad, Dick, who we lifted up last week, he actually underwent triple bypass heart surgery on Friday. And Don reported the surgery went well, and he is doing okay. So he's got a prayer shawl from us, and I hope that's bringing him some peace and comfort, Don. So continue to give him our best, okay? Also, Pat Brand, continue to hold Pat in your hearts and prayers. She's feeling just a little bit weaker and weaker these days, battling with cancer, and just having more difficult days than good days. So, Pat, if you're on with us, just know we're thinking about you, and we are here for you, and we'll walk this journey with you. So, heart and prayer for Pat Brand. Finally, Uncle Harold, Debbie, Ginny, and Penny's, the Diefenbach family's uncle who is back in the hospital, struggling with more issues related to his gallbladder. So, Uncle Harold, we hold you, and please pass on our love from this community to him in this challenging time. I want to lift up a couple of celebrations here. Becky DeLay celebrated a birthday on Friday. It was her birthday, and if that's not enough, she shares a wedding anniversary today with Faith UCC's anniversary. Becky and Bob DeLay celebrating 35 years of wedded bliss. Happy anniversary, Becky and Bob, and a happy birthday to you as well, Becky. Sounds like what a great weekend to celebrate. You're going to see Becky coming up in a little bit in a stewardship testimonial. Barry and Chris Blood also celebrated an anniversary last week. I saw that somewhere, I think, on Facebook. I don't get on Facebook often, but I pick up some nuggets here and there. So that's one I did see. So happy anniversary, Barry and Chris. And again, my friends, today, happy birthday. Faith United Church of Christ. 61 years. Way to go. And here's to the next 61. I wonder if you'll join me now. I know it's a lot of words. It's a lot of information. But it's good stuff that's going on here and around here and within your lives. And we want to celebrate that and hold you in concern when things aren't going so well. So we need those words. But now I want to transition us into a time of centering. I just invite you to take a few deep centering breaths and feel that spirit of God, that great mystery that we live and move and we share our being within. Just let that sink into your soul as you breathe in, and maybe let go of any anxiety, of some anxiety. You might be carrying a lot. Try to let go of some of it. Maybe just keep today's worries. As a great sage once said, today's anxiety is enough for today. Leave tomorrow's for tomorrow. Breathe in a sense of peace and love and joy, and let go of fear. Let go of those things that are bringing you down. And let's journey ever deeper into this time of worship together with a beautiful centering video. The music's a little more up-tempo, but my God, these are some great words. I don't know about you, but I found those words just beautiful. Beautiful vision. Yeah, our reading today is adapted from the book of Acts, chapter 2, verses 42 through 47, which purports to tell the story of the beginning of this entity that we call the church, by situating us in the story of those earliest followers of Jesus after his execution. This is a great story for us today because it is in communities just like this and their stories that our story finds its beginning and its foundation. So hear these words from the book of Acts. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and fellowship, to the breaking bread and prayers. Awe came upon everyone because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles. All who believed were together and had all things in common. They would sell their possessions and goods and distribute the proceeds to all as any had need. Day by day, as they spent much time together in community, they broke bread at home and ate their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having the goodwill of all the people. And day by day, their numbers grew. And as people discovered their healing that this new movement embodied. Let me read that last part again. And day by day, their numbers grew as people discovered the healing that this new movement embodied. Pay attention to that word. That's an important word for us today. And in these words, the birth of the Jesus movement that our church has spent 61 years within, well, it begins to take shape. So I promised you 2 weeks ago that we're going to keep our sermons this month focused on positive, good stories, in an attempt to keep us a little more sane as stories laden with anxiety and fear try to hold us captive in this time as we seem to take what can only be described as the slowest walk ever to the election in 3 weeks' time, or what feels like 3 decades' time. We have been immersed in this stressful story for several years now, especially the last year, and it can eat us up if we will let it. And no doubt we are getting enough of that in our weekly dose of political punditry and social media if you're an addict like me. So Sundays this month seem a time for good stories, positive stories like the one we told last week of World Communion and World Central Kitchen, and people doing some amazing work for the good of the world. We need more of that. So today we're going to continue our theme with good stories. Now, only today, the story is our own. How cool is that? As we are immersed in a powerful story of our history, as we celebrate, as I said, 61 years today of our church, Faith United Church of Christ, being a beacon of hope and peace in a world that, well, desperately needs a lot of hope and peace. Today is a day to celebrate that part of the story, where we look back on our history and all that has comprised our journey over these past 61 years of life of this church, this spiritual community, this haven, as I like to call it, for those often that are about ready to give up on any sense of a Christian, quote-unquote, Christian spiritual home, having been immersed in some who've just led them to see the world through a narrow, judgmental, fairy tale-ish kind of spiritual lens. We're not about that. We're not about that at all. We have 61 years to back it up. So today we celebrate us and our changing that narrative, so to speak, as well as the groundbreaking denomination that we find a home in that was only founded 2 years before we were founded, the United Church of Christ. So I hope you enjoy this story. And it's a long story that goes way back. And we would be remiss if we did not look back and situate ourselves in the larger story that we are a part of, not only of that United Church of Christ I mentioned in general, but that story that began in a Galilee, as I like to say on Christmas, far, far away, where on dusty roadways or along river banks, on hills and in gardens, and on so many occasions, as we explored last week, around tables of hospitality over 20 centuries ago, as this itinerant genius Prophetic preacher struck out on his own, amassed a following, and changed the world through upending all norms and laws of society of the time with a message of what? Love, hope, and peace. So our story begins with this Jewish preacher named Jesus, who told stories of his own, of justice and compassion and equity for all people. Our story begins with a man who spoke God into the world by imploring people to love their neighbors, no matter who they were, as themselves, and to forgive your enemies, no matter who they are. A tough sell this year. And the focus of next week's sermon. Or he challenged us to sell all of our possessions. All of them. I didn't say some of them. He said all of them. Give the proceeds to the poorest, no matter where they are. Our story began with a challenge. A man who taught on hillsides in blistering sermons about the first being last, about blessings on the peacemakers, not the powerful warmongers, and about how we are to do unto others as we'd have them do unto us. Our story begins with these admonitions and commands from the very one who manifested, as I like to say, a God consciousness like the world had never seen to that point, who challenged the world to newness and goodness, and because of the difficulty of his message, was silenced, or so the powers that be thought. That's where we need to begin to remember our own good story, our 61-year-old story today. But yet that execution of Jesus, well, that could have been the end of our story. Maybe we wouldn't even exist. But thank God that story continued in small communal gatherings that would meet weekly shortly after Jesus was executed as people gathered to keep his memory alive and celebrate that vision that he unleashed on the world. So our reading from the book of Acts tells us how these early Jesus followers, well, they met regularly for teaching and fellowship, breaking bread and praying together and sharing meals in their home with glad and, we're told, joyful hearts. For Jesus introduced a new story into the lives of the people. Well, these folks overcame terrible odds of survival as a movement. We need to acknowledge that. The story should really have died off again and again and again. Stories built on the memories of poor, itinerant, crucified seditionists generally did not last long. After all, that's just a fact. Rather, the stories that lasted, and even today still do, were almost always of the rich and the powerful. History often told from their perspective, unless you're reading John Kabat-Zinn. So as the people gathered to keep the story alive, they did so at great risk way back in those times. In fact, within 3 decades of Jesus' death, his brother James, and yes, he did have a brother named James, who was leading the early church, and Paul, who was spreading this Jesus story all over the place, well, they were both executed, along with countless other Jesus followers. So surely then, right, the story would die? But alas, it did not. It only grew wider and farther and more powerful, even when it took on a complete new life of its own. In 112, I love this. In 112 CE, 80 years after Jesus' death, our story continued to unfold in a fascinating letter from a philosopher and Roman governor named Pliny the Younger, who wrote to the Emperor Trajan with a bit of a problem at the time. You see, in Roman society, sacrificing to the gods was crucial to the smooth functioning of the state. That's just what you did. If one did not perform this function, then it was believed the state would suffer from the angry whims of the gods, droughts, fires, plagues, etc. Boy, does that sound familiar today still a little bit, huh? Wow. Maybe not in the sacrifice sense, but you get the point. Wow. Amongst some fundamentalist circles. Anyway, side note. And Christians, according to Pliny, well, they were a bit of a big problem. And they were stubborn and they were obstinate, in his words, in their refusal to sacrifice, given their belief in one God and Jesus as the Christ, the Son of God, as they believed. Many believed. So to deal with them, he had a method. He would try 3 times to get them to do their duty to sacrifice, torturing them when they refused, and executing them after the 3rd attempt failed. Apparently, this was becoming a problem, and Pliny noticed that more and more people were being anonymously accused of being Christians and practicing things like incest and cannibalism, atheism, and stealing and other no-nos of the time. It became the fashion. Christians became the fashionable scapegoats of the time. And this intrigued him. So he did an investigation into what these so-called Christians were really doing. And what he found was rather surprising. In his letter to the emperor, Pliny writes about what he found. He said, to his own surprise, quote, "They meet on a certain day before light, where they gather and sing hymns to Christ as to a god." And he goes on, "They oblige themselves by sacrament or oath not to do anything that was ill, but that they would commit no theft, pilfery, or adultery, that they would not break their promises or deny what was promised to them when it was required back again. After it was custom to depart for them and to meet again at a common but innocent meal." End quote. Doesn't sound so wrong now, does it? How? So Pliny found these early Christians were not only not stealing and doing other wrongs, but part of their gatherings was pledging not to do these things. Now, interesting, a little side note, it's for another sermon. Pliny also says in that letter that he wanted to verify all of this, so he tortured 2 Christian servant maids for the truth. And he said these 2 maids were called deaconesses, meaning leaders in the early Christian movement. I only include that as a side note, but it looks like women had quite a role in the early church after all, according to history. Not theology, not tradition, not exclusion, but history. Wow. Imagine if we operated on history and science. That's for another sermon as well. Anyway, our story still continues. And Pliny changed how we dealt with Christians based on the feedback of the Emperor Trajan. And now we fast forward in time through the consolidation of this budding Christian faith to the powerful years of the Catholic Church, through the tumult of the Middle Ages and through the Reformations, and there were several of them, and finally to our story, to a few strands of the Protestant church that were beginning to be infused in early American society. Now, that's a long, fast sweep of history, I know. And what we see, though, in this tour is that these distinct denominations that form our story, Reformed, Evangelical, Congregational, and Christian, before they all merged to form the United Church of Christ, 2 years before we were born, 1957, well, they were all active in pushing the boundaries, just like Jesus did, and the early church did long ago, for good. These denominations were full of all sorts of groundbreaking firsts in the history of Christianity. I love to talk about them, especially on our anniversary dates. You've heard them before a million times, but they're so cool. Besides being the first outspoken anti-slavery voices, we were also the first act of civil disobedience. When folks gathered at Old South Church in Boston, the UCC church to this day, and sparked the Boston Tea Party. That's in our history. That's our story. We published the first African-American poet in 1773 with Phyllis Wheatley. In 1776, we ordained the first African-American, Lemuel Haynes. The first foreign mission society is formed by the Congregationalists in 1810. The first school for the deaf is formed in 1817. In 1846, we established the first anti-slavery society, and in 1853, we ordained the first woman, Antoinette Brown. Well, Pliny the Younger might have something different to say about that, with his not-so-nice time spent with those early deaconesses. Anyway, in 1972, we ordained the first ever openly gay man, Bill Johnson. And in 2005, became the first Christian denomination to pass a resolution supporting marriage equality. As I mentioned back in 1957, after 30 years of negotiation, these 4 distinct justice-driven denominations did what rarely is done in this day and age of more and more fracturing, more and more disunity. They came together that they may all be one and formed the denomination that we live our story within today, the United Church of Christ. Whew, that's a whirlwind journey, isn't it? I want to take you on this 20th century journey to set the tone for the wider story that we are living into today as we celebrate 61 years of being a church. You see, when the UCC formed in 1957, some folks in Cleveland decided that, well, Florida needed a startup UCC church. So a pastor was chosen, Reverend Richard Davis from Buffalo. We'll forgive him for being a Bills fan. Were there even Bills then? I don't even know. Anyway, another sermon. A planning session was held on October 4th, and the first worship service of this yet unnamed spiritual community was held 61 years ago, this very moment. This very moment, I find that so cool. On Sunday, October 11th at 10:30 a.m. at the Hellenic Center in Clearwater. Well, shortly after, a vote was taken and the church was unanimously named Faith UCC. Land was purchased in Clearwater and they broke ground. They built the church and began, just like those earliest Christian communities, the book of Acts or Pliny the Younger tells us of. They began meeting to sing hymns like we open the service with, or to pray or to break bread and share meals and resources and pledge to do good in the world together. Our church existed for over 50 years before it decided to give up that piece of property for a whole variety of reasons. And that could have just been the end of it. We could have melted into history. It would have been so easy at that point. I spoke about that a couple months ago. Churches do that all the time, but we didn't. We instead moved into the wilderness, as I always like to say, a real time of uncertainty, renting space in a Methodist church with a core of folks that just were not willing to see this special church pass on into history. And then as I shared on our anniversary, our 9th year here, our anniversary date, that we moved here to Dunedin. We found a new home to begin a new chapter, to keep dreaming a new future, but also to keep living the good story that we've been called to since the very beginning, and the one in which we have walked in powerful ways over the past 61 years, and the one that we situate ourselves within the last 2,000 years. That's pretty cool. That's the story that we celebrate today, my friends, on this 61st anniversary of Faith United Church of Christ. And to you, I say happy anniversary. I've told this story many times, usually once each year on our anniversary, because I love to tell it. It's a great story. It's our founding myth, so to speak. It's our origin story. It's kind of our Garden of Eden story, right? It's good to remember our origins, but it's also a great story for folks that have recently merged their own stories with this one, like the dozens this year alone. That is so awesome to have joined the church. It's good for them to hear it and be able to place this church in the spectrum of history, to see that it was founded to follow the one who did and said radical, love-based things, guided by a God-infused sense of hope and love. That our call to this very nature this day, so many years later, is based on the same guiding principle. And here's the thing about this place, our 61 years. It's not the theology behind the title Christ that matters in the least. Throw it out the window. But it's the teachings and the way of what the title prophet means that Jesus embodied, that has been running through our lifeblood as a church since the beginning. That's what's important for us to get today. Even though we are in this strange, distant time, things feel really different and often worrisome than they did in past years when we celebrated our anniversary. Well, I'm just going to say I have such hope because of this place, because of its physical space here on 1650 Pinehurst, of course. New space that even we just celebrated and dedicated just a year ago. But now I have hope even more so because of our presence that is beginning to spread wider and farther than ever through this very medium, the very one you're watching me on right now, that you're participating in our experience right now. Our first 61 years were land-based, in other words. So much of religion is. But our next 61 are going to be something entirely different as we cease being just a church based on a plot of land somewhere and mimic those early churches and becoming a movement instead, whose vision finds a home anywhere that our brand of love is proclaimed under the umbrella of a radically inclusive love that we preach and live here. If you notice in our reading today from the book of Acts, the end of the reading says that the church grew in size and larger, and people were coming to it because they were finding something there. They had grown from being simply a small gathered community to what they called a movement. It's a word I've always loved. And we know, as our little tour through history tells us, that movement spread wide and far, with communities popping up all over based on the radical vision of Jesus and his message of hope for all people. The message was just too powerful, in other words. And a movement burst forth and spilled out into the world from place to place because people were craving what that message embodied. So I think of us today, on this day, with what I believe is the core of the Jesus message of love and inclusion embodied in who we are doing. I think of us much the same, beginning to burst out, to spread from place to place, or in our case, state to state, across the nation, into all sorts of places wide and far, country to country, beyond our borders, places we never thought that we might be reaching, at least not until we were forced to go there by these strange times, a blessing in disguise. Now we realize what we've been missing all along. And so a movement is being born now in our 61st year, and a new message that wherever you are here, is beginning to take hold as more folks disenfranchised from the theological garbage being espoused by so many churches around them and in other areas. Well, they're discovering the message, the good story that we, all of us, have to share instead. Not of division, fear and anxiety, but of love, inclusion, hope. A message not of irrelevant and unbelievable dogma and a theology of fear and judgment, but of a highly relevant and engaged way of being, and a love so radical that it excludes no one. No one, no judgment. Leave that behind. There's something really unique happening here, my friends. I hear you say it all the time. All the time. There isn't, in a sense, in my opinion, a redemption of the Christian message happening here. One that is going from the Christianity as a religion that judges paradigm to the Christianity as a movement that welcomes radically and loves fully paradigm and changes lives paradigm. And the world is seeking that message and waiting for that movement to emerge and rise from the shadows of too much bad religion yet again. And we, this movement, 61 years old today, are carrying its mantle. And now in our 61st year, a most pivotal year for us, we need to reach out. We need to go find those in the wilderness just seeking a home like this, no matter where they are. A place to feel as though wherever they are here, and is fully a part of this movement of love as the person who lives next door. So spread the word. Spread the word, as it did back in those earliest of times when the movement was just born. Spread the word through every medium you can. There's something special is happening here. And that here means wherever you are, if you want to be a part of this movement. Let's make sure that no land, no borders, no nationalities, and certainly no distances of any kind keep anyone from proclaiming that this is their spiritual home and feeling a part of this movement. Let's keep proclaiming that wherever you are here. Say it with me. Wherever you are here. Wherever you are here. For with that firmly held vision, a church, a small church, just like back in the day of Acts, becomes a movement. And that is breaking news. I hope you found some inspiration in this story today, my friends. I hope you found this a good story. One like last week that can counter the divisive narrative that is so thriving right now in our nation leading up to this, this election. If you are really struggling with these times, which many of you are, I know, I'm right there with you. Just remember one thing from today and from the story of this place. As no matter what happens in the coming weeks and months, as we really don't know, this story and its movement will continue to be written into the unfolding events of the future, no matter what the circumstances are. Whew. As we have been there amidst various times of injustice and risen to the occasion for 61 years to this very moment today, living the story of Jesus in his life-giving, inclusive, and hope-filled way, so too will we continue to be there still, should certain ideologies continue to wreak havoc into the coming years. And we will build our movement stronger and stronger, wider and wider, continue to speak out amidst any and all forms of violence, division, and fear. It's really just kind of in our DNA, I guess. But I'll tell you, being where we are, on the edge between two unknowns right now, with two very different competing visions for the future, for love, for peace of mind, for inclusion, all on the line, well, it brings me such peace for me to know that this movement is right here, mobilized and ready to roll and spreading wider than ever before. It has been for 61 years. And I know it will be even more powerfully spread out more fully as a movement that is about to break free well into the future. So share this good story, my friends. Share the story wide and far. Tell a good story in a day and age of far too many bad stories. And remember, wherever this day finds you, wherever you are here. Happy birthday, Faith United Church of Christ. Happy anniversary, Faith United Church of Christ. And a blessed next 61 years to changing the world through a vision born long ago of love. Amen.
Someday we will all join our hands in a loving circle none can break.
Thank you, Michelle, Carolyn, Michael, for putting that together with us. We went in and made a small investment in a new Yamaha, not a motorcycle, a keyboard. And I always think motorcycle when I hear Yamaha. Keyboard, so we can really have some fun with the music. And wow, it's only been like a week, and they're doing some fantastic stuff with it. So, my friends, thank you for what you give us each week. I wonder if you'll join me now in just a moment of prayer, a moment of centering ourselves ever deeper in that spirit of God that is already a part of us. But how often do we just take the time just to rest in that? This is just a time for that. The mystic Julian of Norwich once said, "All shall be well. All shall be well. For there is a force of love moving through the universe that holds us fast and will never let us go." In this time of deeper centering and prayer, let us journey into an even more restful time in that mystery that gives us our life force, that connects us to one another, to our earth, to the cosmos, and all that is. Rest in that eternal now that you live and move and share your being within. Rest in God. Breathe and be. And say with Julian that all shall be well. All shall be well. Let's have a moment of stillness together. Back in the realm of words, we have the opportunity to lift our voices in hope for the world around us, and for people around us, and for those we share this earth with and all of creation. And so we, today in spoken word and in the silence of our hearts, pray for the suffering, for the struggling, the poorest and the wounded in our world, the excluded, families seeking new lives on our borders or any borders, living on the edges, for creation that is yearning to be free of our intoxicants, for farm workers to fill our stores with so much good abundance, yet are paid so little for such hard labor. They've been in the news lately. Thinking of our Immokalee friends. Help us, O God, to turn our gaze towards injustice and pain and strive for the fullness of life for all people. Help us to follow the way of Jesus, who radiated your consciousness into the world and called for your kingdom of love, equity and peace and fullness of life for all those we have mentioned and all those that we hold in our hearts, for our world. May we make it one. Shift our gaze a little closer to our own lives, and we lift up those that we know who are struggling, mind and body and spirit. We lift them in hope, in light, and in love. And where illness has taken hold, may healing be even stronger. Where anxiety is draining energy and drowning us in worry, may courage and confidence prevail. Where loss is felt deeply, may wholeness fill those voids. Where COVID has struck in some way through loss of life, loss of health, loss of jobs, loss of retirements, so many other ways, loss of our mental faculties. May we find a sense of peace. For all those that struggle, may a presence emerge from within to remind us that we are never alone. We're never to be afraid. Be not afraid. great mystery we name God, we lift all of these things to you. And we lift those people today that we have raised up in our hearts, Dick and Bev and Peg. We always hold Mama Liz and Helen and Joanne, and Reuben and Suzette, Mary and Carl and John Spicer and Jan and Al and Sylvia, and Jeannie and Pat Pitts, Amanda, and of course Uncle Harold. For all the loved ones that we name aloud, and I invite you to speak them into the universe, into the body of God, and for all those that we hold in the silence of our hearts. We pray this day. I wonder, my friends, if you'll join me now in praying together an interpretation based on those beautiful words that our brother, who started our story, taught us in those hillsides long ago when he dreamed about an entirely different world. The words are on the screen. Please join me in our interpretation of the Lord's Prayer. Ground of all being, Mother of life, Father of the universe, your name is sacred beyond speaking. May we know your presence. May your longings be our longing in heart and action. May there be food for the human family today and for the whole earth community. Forgive us the falseness of what we have done, as we forgive those who are untrue to us. Do not forsake us in our time of conflict, but lead us into new beginnings. For the light of life, the vitality of life, and the glory of life are yours, now and forever. Amen.
Good morning, dear friends. I am honored to be here today to share with you a bit about what makes Faith Church special for me and why I believe it's important to support this community. As a lifelong member of Faith Church, this community has always been a part of my life, from happy childhood memories of learning and feeling loved to many transitions throughout my adult life, always providing me with a place to come home to. I've always known that no matter where I am on my journey, that this church, this community, has been here to provide me strength, support, guidance, and love. No matter where I've been, I've always known I could come home to Faith Church. Amidst all the challenges and changes we have faced as a church, we have persevered and celebrated because this is our home. A community that provides sustenance for myself and so many others. Knowing how Faith Church nurtures my soul, my spirit, my mind, and my very being, I strongly believe that it's important to nurture and sustain the church to continue in its missions and guidance for each of us, and the broader community and the world. During these last 6 months of virtual church, it has been apparent how important the church's presence is to so many of us, both near and far, members and friends. Even once we are able to gather again in our physical space, we plan to continue our strong online presence. Giving of ourselves, our time and talents is crucially important, but it also requires financial support. By filling out a pledge card, it allows the church to better plan how it will utilize these resources in the year ahead and continue to provide the sustenance that we all need. Please give generously and wisely, and if possible, share your planned giving with the leadership team. You will always have a home at Faith Church. Happy Sunday, everyone.
Oh, thank you, Becky, for that wonderful stewardship announcement. And again, a happy birthday to you and a happy anniversary to you and Bob. Hope it's going to be a great day. We are in stewardship season. I know it feels weird this year because we're not physically in a space, but it's time to just get over that. It's changed. The future is entirely different now. And what it means to be a part of this church is no longer in Dunedin, Florida. It's in Michigan. It's in Minnesota. It's in California. It's in Hawaii. It's in Texas. It's in Las Vegas. Haha, could be a big giver. It's in Nova Scotia. It's in Sweden. It's all over the place. Wherever you are here. So wherever you are, consider joining this movement. Just be wonderful to start building that global presence and building up our stewardship so that we can do more and more. We're given left and right to the community as much as we can through your generous offerings. We're supporting all sorts of different work. Check the newsletter for all sorts of information on where your money is going to help stock food shelves and just contribute to all sorts of other needs in our community. It's such a wonderful, wonderful thing. Part of our story, giving. So that's my long-winded way of saying, please, if you can, hey, if you've been thinking about joining this place and you're not even here, it doesn't matter anymore. Do it. We want you here. And if you've been considering making a pledge for the work that we want to continue to do, which is even going to get greater, just have a strange feeling, it's going to even get greater in the years to come. We need you here. We need your presence. We need your voice. We need your spirit. So my long-winded way again of saying, please give as generous as you can in our morning offering. Website is over here, faithucc.org, and you can make a contribution, investment in us, in you, in us, what we do together through Vanco or PayPal. And if you need a pledge card, just call the church office or email the church office, and we will get one to you as fast as we can. Zoom code, my hammer is backwards, so forgive me when I do this. Zoom code is above me. That is the correct Zoom code. Join me for a little coffee time, a sermon talk back, just come and celebrate 61 years, and let's have some coffee together. I always enjoy that, my friends. I wish you nothing but a blessed and wonderful week. Try and push some of the negativity aside this week. You're going to be inundated with it. It's going to come at you. Turn that TV off. It's going to be a beautiful week. Try and get outside wherever you are. Hit the woods, hit the parks, find a coffee shop where you can safely settle into a corner. Just do something. Read a book. But keep that news off. Keep that news off. It's going to be brutal 3 weeks. Although it's kind of hard to, I know. I'm with you. My friends, I wish you a blessed week. I'll see you next week. If I don't see you before, I'll see you next week. And remember, all week long, keep saying to yourself, wherever you are here. Let's sing our way out here for peace. Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with us.